TRANS-PORTATION is part of a larger project called Transistor Radio, which was an electroacoustic radio drama originally done for German radio. And in this larger project, it's kind of a combination of many different little scenes or vignettes that deal with transgenderism and social mobility, cultural mobility, and especially dealing with borders and travel. And this section called Transportation in particular is about my kind of anxiety and experiences with traveling across borders as transgendered. So for example, things that people wouldn't normally think about, but like, for example, like if a man has a lot of women's clothing in their suitcase and if the security people open it up, then they might think that you're trying to smuggle in women's clothing or something and try to impose what I call a tranny tax, which is like a taxation on things that you bought and are smuggling into the country, as opposed to, you know, then you of course have to defend how it's your own things, why if you're a man you have women's clothes, etc., and kind of go through a coming out process to these security guards and things like this. So. Well, this performance is kind of like a mini performance. So what I do is I actually begin with another piece that's from a completely different radio drama called The Lawrence Russell Show. And there's a section in that called Terry's Confession. And it's kind of about an introduction to maybe a kind of, it's a very convoluted introduction to maybe how I see my transgenderism. And kind of playing with fictions around the family and biology and genetics, and but in the end having it be kind of about a kind of cultural chaos. And so yeah, then the transportation segment is then done like a radio announcer in a way, and within that I have these recordings that I made with a hidden microphone of airport security staff and stewardesses and this sort of thing, talking to them about if they've ever had experiences with transgendered passengers, etc. And of course, in that process, I'm closeting myself, like hiding my own transgenderism. And yeah, so it's kind of this kind of narrative of kind of narrating what I'm thinking about and then having these segments of field recordings in between. Of course, I think in my work I try to play with this idea of the way in which personal stories give you a kind of authenticity or strength as a producer. And at the same time, though, I'm always very suspect of this, and I see this as a kind of power play and as a kind of dynamic that has to be handled critically. And so that's why when it comes to telling personal stories or something like this, I always try to combine kind of fictions or over-exaggerations or things that kind of make it clear that, in a way, the history that I'm presenting is deformed by my own perspective. And I kind of try to perform in a way that's not about being professional in terms of training, to kind of be in this position of the stage with all of its, of course, in this, you know, Centre Pompidou and outrageous infrastructure, then to kind of be a disappointment in terms of the quality of the performance. But to have this be not a disappointment that's about an aesthetic of musical quality, but for example, like, oh, the band wasn't very good tonight, and this kind of disappointment. For me, I'd like to try to magnify that, take it further, and really make the audience feel like maybe they weren't even entertained at all. Maybe they were robbed of this moment of the chance for entertainment. It wasn't only that they were given a bad entertainment, but that chance itself never came. And so this is maybe one thing that I try to play with boredom, a kind of low technical quality. And for me, these are also things that I think come from the economic reality of where most of the producers in this sort of field are coming from. I mean, I think, especially when you're dealing with electronics and stuff, even when people are using lo-fi analog gear, there's a kind of futurismo going on, and a kind of idealism around technology. And for me, I like to take it more the other direction of revealing the kind of limitations of a lo-fi scenario in a way that it robs you of this romantic aesthetic. So.